Hi everyone, and welcome back to Bitsii and Inaka. Today I'm just going to take you along for a slow life weekend in the Japanese countryside. To be honest, I've been in the hustle lately between moving, tying up loose ends, doing paperwork around the move and marriage, and I quit my full-time job, moved onto my partner's health insurance, and so on. So today we are just going to take it easy, get settled, and work on some home projects. The kitchen is a mess right now because I haven't been here long enough to do much about it yet. So today I'm going to spend some time getting it organized. There is a grandma in my neighborhood who makes their own tofu and soy milk. This is my first time trying it. But first, I'm excited to talk to my language teacher for the first time in a while. I quit my day job and my partner speaks English, so I won't have as much exposure to verbal Japanese as I did before. But it's so important to keep learning. The more Japanese you know, the higher your quality of life here. Since I live in such a remote area, I thought it would be a good idea to schedule in some time for applied language learning. Here's a funny fact. The area where I live, most people, 1, speak a remote regional dialect, and 2, don't teach. But everybody understands Tokyo dialect, and my husband is also from Tokyo, so that's what I continue to study. I started using italki to study Japanese while I lived in the US. Even when I was traveling, I could maintain a regular schedule of being exposed to real native Japanese language speakers. And now, even though I live in Japan, I'm glad I can use italki to practice in a flexible speaking environment, and I can even filter for where my teacher lives or is from to find certified teachers who are real native speakers. It's so flexible, I don't have to take the time to drive anywhere. I can schedule a one-on-one customized language lesson even here in the middle of the mountains. You can study Japanese, or they also have over 150 languages available. There's no subscription fee. It's pay per lesson. You can even find lessons as low as $5. I'm learning Japanese on italki with Naoko-san. I've practiced with a few different teachers, and they were all good, and they all had different styles and specialties. I like Naoko-san because she's super friendly and she feels like a friend. She splits her time between Tokyo and New York and also works as a real estate agent in both countries. So usually, we also have some casual conversations about our culture, experiences between Japan and America, houses, apartments, and things like that. Some italki teachers offer introductory trial rates, so you can get to know their teaching style before getting in the full swing of things. So let's go!
ございます。
久しぶりで
何さん、お久しぶり。元気ですか？
元気です。最近忙しいですか？
そうですね。問題でも教えてますし、仕事もね、やってますね。そうにね。はい。ベサニーさんはどうですか？
忙しいと、最近結婚しました。
あ、おめでとうございます。
ありがとうございます。Good. That was great. I like getting my study time in at the beginning of the day because my mind is fresh and I can kind of replay phrases from my lesson through the day. I'm pleased to share that italki has provided a special deal for the Bitsii community. Click through the link below in the description to start your language learning journey. If you buy $10, you get an extra $5 for free for your first lesson using my exclusive promo code ITALKIBITSII, but it's only available for the first 50 users. If you try it, I'd love to hear about it. I've really appreciated italki, and I think a lot of you will too. There you go. Next up, let's do a bit of work in the kitchen. So this house was an akiya and it was vacant, but not for very long, just around 2 years, I think. There are 4 buildings on the property, and if you haven't watched it yet, I did a bit of a tour in my last video, so I'll pop a link on screen now if you want to go back and watch that one first. Usually houses in Japan don't come with appliances, but it might be becoming more of a common occurrence for remote akiyas like this one. Usually what happens with these houses is that the resident reaches the end of their life and their family members have moved on elsewhere or for whatever reason don't need the house, so the house and everything in it is left behind, sometimes including appliances. Last week I spent a few days taking things out and painting. Because Japan's birth rate is declining and most people prefer to live in fresh, newer houses or in the city, there's a surplus of houses like this one. Back to the kitchen, it had more in it than we needed, plus Mr. Nakamura and I both already had our own belongings. So we are spending more time getting rid of things than we do bringing new things in. We pulled out the existing kitchen furniture items and disposed of them because they were a bit moldy and not very high quality. They were laminated MDF, so they weren't restorable. Now, I think that a few years ago, akiya houses were plentiful, but the most affordable ones usually needed a lot of updating. But as the population keeps going down, demand keeps going down, and my theory is that there are more and more houses available that are affordable and still in livable condition. The home store here doesn't do custom colors, so I ended up mixing white, milky white, and gray to get something that isn't too sterile but still much fresher. I spied this old cabinet in the storage room. Luckily, it measured out about right. These cabinets belonged to the landlord's grandfather. They were good quality back in the day, probably about 100 years old. She admitted that if it wasn't for us, they probably would have been tossed out. I'm glad that they're still here. I started out by just giving them a good clean. There are some bug nests and dirt to clear away first. Plus, check out these old newspapers that were lining the drawers. Then I scraped away any loose coating and gave the hardware a light cleaning. It's pretty common in North America to have kitchen islands, but I haven't seen it so much here in the countryside at least. And I think it would work well for our family, so I'm going to change the layout a bit. I like the look of vintage woodwork, and I found this tinted linseed woodworking oil at the local hardware store. The funny thing is that the tutorial video on their website shows them dinging up a new wooden box with a hammer and screws to get an aged look. We don't have to fake it. This stuff is actually just old. So after getting the surface cleared, I'm just going straight over everything, letting it sit for a bit and then wipe it away. Linseed oil is also a common finish for iron, so I went right over the iron hardware. By the way, this isn't a tutorial and I'm not an experienced woodworker, so use caution if you try this too. I wasn't sure if it would work out well or not, but wow, it sure looks a lot nicer now. We can appreciate it as iron now. It's like the surface rust vanished. Lunchtime. My garden isn't fully bursting yet, but I do manage to have a decent kale salad every once in a while. My goal is to produce enough greens and things to eat salad lunch every day. And I usually pair it with protein, sesame dressing, or whatever other random vegetables from the garden. I started designing how to turn one of these furniture boxes into the kitchen island, but I abandoned the design a bit when I found this low table base in storage. It's not quite the same size as the other furniture, but I'm going to cut it down and make it work because I'd rather make use of what we have. And the leg details are interesting. Even though it's kind of a mishmash of styles, I like that it's all just from here on the property. Mottai nai. Then for the top, I grabbed an old door from a stack of old doors that were just wasting away behind the house. They were about the right size, so it just took a little bit of editing on size. I did some testing of coatings for the tabletop. I voted for a natural finish on the top and Mr. Nakamura voted for dark, so I did a 50-50 mix of natural and tinted linseed oil. Actually, I think the slight tint is better than either of the first options. These old metal cabinets are going to stay. There's nothing wrong with them. I personally wouldn't install cabinets with a rose motif, but we are going to appreciate them for what they are. The first time I looked at them, I just assumed that they would need to be replaced. But we are all about reframing that kind of mindset here, so we are going to just clean them up, make repairs as needed, and add a bit of polish, freshen up their immediate surrounding context to make them stand out, and appreciate them as vintage. Maybe it's obvious, but there weren't any old bar stools hanging around the house, so I did order some new ones. But overall, I'm still happy with the amount of things we were able to repurpose that were already here. Better for our pockets, better for the environment, and I'm happy to see some house history last a bit longer. I was going to use this light at the old house, but it didn't happen, so we just did a quick swap. The drawers work okay, but I think I'll come back later to add some soft closed drawer hardware because I'm wild and eccentric like that. The kitchen isn't done yet, but wow, it's going to work so much better for us this way. One person can be making a meal or washing dishes, and the other can be doing something at the counter. Later, I'm going to make an update to the backsplash because it's kind of breaking apart and a lot of the grout has wasted away. So for this weekend, since I know some people will be interested to know, I'll put on screen how much we ended up spending on the updates and some currency conversions. The wood cabinets, cleaning supplies, and some tools we already had on hand. If you want more details about the specific products, I'll post a link to that in the description below too. So yeah, for about $185 and just reusing things that were left behind here, I'm pretty dang happy with how this is going. It's not done yet, but I feel pretty happy to share this. If only one person sees this and feels empowered to enjoy working within their means, to just clean and use what is on hand to make your home support the way you live, I will be simply ecstatic. That's all for now. See you next time.